60 minutes. We're going to be chatting mules and donkeys. My name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards. And that's really all we're doing here. And we are so glad to have you with us. Steve, how has your Wednesday been so far?
It's been unique. I went to the dentist and they tell me I need $6,000 to pull a tooth and to have another tooth put in. And so I called up one of my cowboy buddies and he said he's got a pair of channel locks. He'll pull the tooth for me.
Oh, my goodness. Well, one of those things, you'd much rather spend your money on a whole bunch of different things, but there is nothing in the world like tooth pain. I'll tell you what. So I had a root canal that needed to be done. At the time, I didn't know that it was a root canal that needed to be done. And it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and my face started hurting. And I thought it was my jaw. And so I was like just icing up my jaw, trying to keep my jaw nice and keep it from getting swollen, and it just would not go away. Thanksgiving Day, I was up laying down the whole day because I was in so much pain. Well, we had a friend's wedding that Friday, so the Black Friday we had a friend's wedding, and I told Sandra, I said I don't think I can go. And she said, well, no, you need to be there. These are our friends. And I said, well, that may be the case, but if I go, I'm going to be in so much pain. Talking really hurts. And it was my job that I had just left. It was all of the people from that job that were going to be at the wedding. They're going to think I'm bitter. They're going to think I'm mean or whatever. Well, I was like, okay, I'll go, and then I'll leave as soon as the pain gets too bad. And as soon as the toasts were over, I was out of there. Well, before my wife left, one of the bridesmaids came up and she goes, was Dave upset at me? I felt like he was just glaring at me the whole time. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't talking. Was he upset? She goes, no, he was kind of afraid of that. He's just in a lot of pain. Went to the dentist on Monday. They said you need a root canal, and that took care of it. I was, I would have much rather had just about anything else that needed to be done other than dental work. But that's not why we're here to talk about, although we may talk about mule and donkey dental work, because that is very important, is it not?
Yeah, I've pulled a few teeth from the mule and donkeys using the pliers. Yep.
It's responsible for a lot. Well, folks, we are here. We'll talk about mule and donkey teeth. Hey, we can talk about Steve's teeth if you want to. I don't know what it's going to help you with, but we are pleased to spend the next hour just chatting about mules and donkeys. So really, if you're new, we want to say welcome again. I'm Dave. This is Steve. And there's three things that we ask. Anybody that's here week in, week out, they'll be able to tell you what those exact three things are. But just to make it easy on you, I'm going to tell you what they are. First and foremost, if you're watching first time, 100th time, we ask that you put your name and where you're watching from in the comment section. We just like to know that you're here. We just like to know that we're not alone. Steve and I love hanging out and chatting back and forth, but this time is really all about you. Steve and I can do that any other time. But Wednesdays at 2:30 here, Pacific Daylight Time, that's about you. So put your name and where you're watching from in the comment section so we can say hi. The second thing we ask is that you ask any and every mule question, donkey question that you have. And hey, if you got a horse question, please feel free to put that in there as well. Steve knows the horses and can help you out maybe a little bit here or there as well. So ask your question. Doesn't matter if we've answered it 100 times. Doesn't matter if it's something we've never talked about. We really want to help you out. And the third thing is we ask that you share the broadcast. Y'all have been so great about sharing the broadcast and sending your friends, sending your family members, sending your acquaintances our way. We have just grown the amount of people who tune in and watch these broadcasts live and watch the replays over on Facebook and YouTube. We've grown that number, and that's all because of you. So tag friends, tag family, or just click the share button on Facebook down below. Click that share button and say, hey, come on over and watch this mule and donkey thing they got going on. Never seen such a thing, training mules and donkeys over social media. So we've got Di Schultz, so right off the bat, we've gone international. Di and Dave are watching from Australia. We've got Tracy from Lake Como, Pennsylvania. We've got Eileen from sunny and windy Nebraska. We've got Rebecca from North Carolina watching. We've got Alan from Durango, Mexico. So international again there. We're glad to have you watching from all over the world. Jerry is watching from Benson, Arizona. We've got, we got Cowboykin from Connecticut. And we've got Trace from Goodeye from Queensland. Listening while I'm at work. International again. Australia. Steve, what do you say we get into our first question of the day?
Yeah, let's get her done. It's fun listening to these people, using my techniques and stuff. Got a quick little story.
Yeah.
Had a guy call me from Washington. He says, Steve, He says, I just got to thank you, thank you, thank you. I said, well, tell me what's going on. He says, well, I went to the veterinarian to do the dental work on my mule, which it really needed to get done.
Yeah.
And he says, but most of all, there was this mule and it was having a hard time, a lady jerking him around and everything. Veterinarian tried to give it a shot. So he says, could I help you guys out a minute? They said, sure. What do you got in mind? He said, let me show you. So he put the come-along hitch on it, gave 2 jerks on the come-along hitch. That mule stood still through the whole process. And the veterinarian said, I've never seen nothing like that before. He says, we've always sedated this mule, you know. And he said they were just so profoundly thanking him for, he says, well, I learned it from this old cowboy. I said, don't use the word old.
Experienced, I guess.
Experienced
cowboy. All right, well, let's talk about this here. That's cool. Yeah. Folks, if you got any stories like that, do make sure to send them Steve's way. You can give him a ring or send him an email. This one comes from Brad. Brad sent in this email, says, I'll be riding in the Smoky Mountains for a week. What do I feed her besides grass hay? What about vitamins? We have 4 horses and they get ADM Strong Grow minerals. They are fed Senior Glow pellets 1 cup a day. Thank you for your input and help. So I don't know what ADM Strong Grow minerals are. What do you got there for Brad?
Well, is that Brad Nicholson in Tennessee? Well, most likely.
Let me take a look here.
But anyway, those are good additions to your feed. And of course, they probably got their animals on pasture. The downside is, folks, it's just like anything else. If you give them the wrong thing, then you could be overdosing them. So you want to make sure you know what you're giving them. And that's a good start. That's a really good all-around vitamin mineral process. And because that's one of the downsides is since we don't know what's in our hay and since we don't know what's in our pastures, the best way to do it, I guess, is just to buy a little supplement. So he's doing good there,
Very good. All right. The next question that we got here, this one's from Melinda. It's a little bit longer. It's about weight gain. Says, I'm inquiring about any future clinics you might be offering as well as nutritional ideas for my kill pen mule Molly. I have an extensive horse background and have trained a few mules along the way. I am a non-practicing equine nutritionist. I know all the book learning does not apply to every situation. I'm not stuck in my ways per se. My Molly, she's 15'2", hands high, was about 850 in late June when I got her. She gained about 100 pounds, is 950. Her teeth and vets say she is 10-ish. I suspect a little older. Even thin, she had and still has fat pads on her hindquarters. They have not really changed with weight gain. When I found her, there was no reason to think she was rank, and I have not seen any exhibit of such. She's been an angel so far. I ride her a couple days a week on my farm, but just an hour or so I'm trying to get her weight up. She gets good quality, high-fat, low-starch feed, 4 pounds AM and PM, and all the coastal hay she wants. We would love to participate in a future clinic and would love to get her fit enough to tackle some trails away from home. I've pulled many out of the trenches, but she is special and seems to be a little slow getting her up to her best. Thanks in advance, Melinda. That was a great rundown. Very concise, a lot of information there. Steve, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I've talked to Melinda. She's in Texas. She used to own a feed store, and she's done a little bit of everything. This lady's got a lot of experience. But just like I tell you, folks, people are finding out that horses are not mules, and mules are not horses. And you've got to feed them and dress them and treat them different than you do the horse. I had another friend of mine, Luke Streeter, out of Michigan, and he says, this kid, I knew him back, 15 years ago, one of my students there in Michigan. But anyway, long story short, folks are finding out that these mules are different. So with her, she's feeding the right things. She got her dental work done, which is awesome. And she's feeding the right things, and she is doing some exercise. So my suggestion is always, and she said all the coastal hay it wants to have. And coastal hay is a roughage, and it will put the pounds on, but not as quick as if you if you gave them some alternatives, like some grain and some other pellets and this sort of thing. But if it was me to do, like I shared with her, ride that mule is good, get exercise, you're feeding right. The only thing I would do different would be to, every time you go to ride, get whole oats and put the nose bag on their head while you're harnessing them up with your saddles and your tack, and get them all tacked up and let them be eaten in the same time. And the good thing about that is they'll eat all they need. Now, this is only during saddling when you're going at least 2 hours on a ride. You don't need to be feeding them grain all the time. You will have a jet airplane on your hands and a monster that will look for boogers behind every heel. So let's go on. Feeding that that whole oats will help the top line and will help give her plenty of energy, but will also keep her from losing and dropping weight. That's one of the things that happens, folks, when we decide we're going to go on some long rides and we don't feed them accordingly, and we need to feed them ahead of time accordingly. Don't just all of a sudden just start feeding. Don't do that, because their intestines, large and small intestines, can't handle that. So anytime you change and feed, you always want to do it slowly to get there.
Very good. This next question comes in. This one comes in from Patty. Patty says, I just purchased an 8-year-old draft mule. She is very underweight. From what I've been reading, mules are not easy to fatten up without much problem stemming. You mentioned feed available in AZ, but that seems more appropriate for a colt or nursing mare. What are your recommendations? I currently feed her equine senior from Purina. I keep hay out in front of her at all times. So it's a similar thing to what you would have said to Melinda.
Melinda, yeah. Same thing I also suggested to Melinda, which I was going to suggest back to you to hear, was read my article on Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. In that article, I talk about my feeding program, and I talk about a particular feed that we developed called Lakin Light, Lakin Light. And read the article and see what happens. Now, I understand that Lakin is now shipping to a lot of different places, so I don't know. But if not, take the ingredients that's in there and take it down to your local feed dealer and say, what do we have similar to this? Now, some of them can be what I call rabbit pellets, a little bitty pellet. Well, you may have to use that in addition to your hay. And remember, folks, remember about that hay. This is important. That's one thing Melinda says she does, is she buys a year ahead of time so that she keeps the same consistency of the hay. When you buy a bale at a time, you never know what field it's coming from. You can be changing a lot in your carbohydrates and your zinc. You can be changing a lot in all kinds of ways. So I always suggest try to buy a year ahead of time. So that would be my suggestion for the other person as well. And then, folks, you feed according to what they're doing. Don't just throw them out in a smorgasbord, i.e. the pasture, and let them just eat all day, just like you and I. Yeah. If we eat all day, we gain weight, and so just feed according to what you need.
There we go. Next question I got here. This one is from Karen on feed. Again, Karen says, I'm trying to put some weight on my 30-year-old draft mule. She eats a scoop of oats with beet pulp once a day, same portion as our black draft horses, pasture all day and hay all night. She is retired. This year seems to be a struggle, hoping we can enter winter with a few more pounds in her. I read that Timothy pellets is good for mules. So we're still talking about the same thing here, but she brings up the idea of Timothy pellets.
Well, Timothy is always an awesome feed. It's a great fiber. She mentioned beet pulp. Folks, beet pulp is awesome. It's really awesome. It helps most of all to clean out the large and small intestines and this sort of thing. It's great. But here's the thing, folks. As these mules go to aging, and they will start eating less, you keep an eye on their teeth. Their teeth have already gone about as far as they're going to go, so they'll start wearing down. But keep the teeth floated and balanced, and it don't make any difference what you feed them. They're awful hard. When they hit over 25 years old, it is extremely hard to keep weight on them, you know. And I would just basically tell you, feed them about anything they want. You know, we fed our 28-year-old mule, Stacy. I fed her a lot of grain just to keep up her energy levels. But with all these new feeds that are out here now, new supplements, go over, look at the supplement on my Mules Can't Stand Can't Stand Prosperity, not supplement, but feed, and go from there. And you know, I've been a really fan of Purina all these years, and I've had different companies that I've talked to. So the best thing to do is to feed it and see how your mule does. Watch their attitudes and this sort of thing.
Very good. Lots of good comments here on feed, so I'm sure folks will find this one really helpful. We've got a few more viewers here, which, folks, this is your first time hanging out with us. My name's Dave. This is Steve. We're talking mules. We're talking donkeys, and we want to hear from you. Go ahead and put your name and where you're watching from in the comment section. We just want to know that you're here. Ask any mule and donkey question you have. There is an endless amount of questions. These animals are so unique and different. Put that in the comment section as well, and then make sure you share the broadcast. Tell other folks. Send all your friends. Tell all your friends. Send them our way. We've got Christine over on YouTube watching from Grafton, Ohio. We've got Jerry saying the come along works. Jerry was making a comment there after you had shared that story about this mule that had to been sedated to get dental work done. They wound up using that come along rope, and mule stood still the whole time. Yes, Jerry, the come along does work. Karen from Virginia, I've had a come-along rope for 1.5 years. I wonder if I should apply more wax. If so, how do I do it? Steve?
Well, paraffin wax, you can do that. I usually take a leather glove, and just like you do when of course, a lot of you haven't done that, bronc riding or bull riding, and you leathered up, but get the wax and rub it on a paraffin wax, and then take your leather glove and just start rubbing it in really hard. Tie one end to a post and the other end to your bumper of your truck and stretch it out, and then take that paraffin wax and go from one end to the other. You know, you just kind of put it along and rub it on the rope, and then come back with the glove and really rub it in. That's the best way to do it. Especially, folks, it's important the first 12 feet of that rope is the main part you want to have waxed. But it's also nice to have the whole thing waxed, because as you know, when you're wearing gloves, it'll burn you. But when you're holding on to that rope, that wax helps hold it a little bit more easier.
Yeah, very good. Hope that helps there, Karen. Kimberly chiming in from Gilbert. Those are my stomping grounds right there. Hi, Kimberly. Glad that you're here. Nat,
she's got a new baby mule coming in.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, she's got one coming in. Wyoming or Utah, one of the two. We've been talking, and cool. She's really excited. Her and her husband. It's almost like they're getting their first child in.
That is exciting. We'll have to ring the bell when that mule comes along. Let's see here. We've got Nat watching from Missouri. Steve.
Yeah, hey granddaughter. By golly, good to hear from you. She's been doing a lot of training. She's mainly been training her parents here recently. Yeah, her mother actually got a first place in showmanship at a show, and her mother is not a horseman, and they're really trying hard. By golly, her and Jason are right there with Nat, and her brother likes hot rods and cars and stuff, and of course so does Jason, her dad. But Nat, she's a natural. I mean, she puts her hand on a rein and you can see things happen.
Now, if I recall, there's someone else that I know who likes cars and hot rods. Oh, gosh. Who is this?
Here, let me look around. Oh, I see him right here.
Oh, that's right. Right there. What do you got, Steve?
Yeah, I've got a 49 Mercury hot rod, and I've got a 64 Falcon Woody wagon. And the Woody wagon we've had almost 50 years. It was our first car when we got married, and we've been married 51 years now. Ring the bell a bunch, and yeah, there you go. And so, yeah, I like them. It's a lot of fun. It's always fun to see the look on people's faces, Dave, when they say to me, "How many mules have you got?" And I tell them I don't have any. They scare me. But that's fun. I got all the mules I want to ride. All I got to do is make a phone call and I guarantee you the next morning they'll be waiting in line out there by the gate, bringing the mules in here to ride, and do. But we need to plan a clinic here. We need to plan one in February.
We do.
And we need to plan one in March when the weather's kind of good. But,
yeah, when it's still nice out there. So I've got this photo right here. I'll show it. Steve was driving. I didn't want to distract him, but this is me and my team here out at our offices. Steve came, picked us up, took us out to barbecue in his Mercury. It was a lot of fun. We had a really, really good time. And then here's Carlos. Carlos is my right-hand man, and he's sitting up there in the front having a good time. It was very, very fun. 3 gears, right?
Yeah, three on the tree, 60 horsepower, flathead V8. Elderbrock heads, Offenhauser manifold, 4-barrel carburetor, so I don't pass any gas stations at all, and it's a lot of fun. And then of course my Falcon, in the last show it was at, well, no, it didn't win on this last show, but the show before that it got 3rd place. It's kind of rare,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
very rare. I understand.
Well,
I was looking for a pick. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's rare to have someone who has one that is in showing condition that they've had as long as you have.
Yeah, 50 years. And the other thing about it, I paid $860 for that car. And this was 1970. And I had, I was just married since 68, had 2 kids, and bang, bang. And so the guy said to me, I said, $860, that's a lot of money. And he says, yeah. He says, but we can set you up with payments. And I says, good. See what you can do for payments. So he comes back to me. He says, can you afford $28 a month for a payment? And I said, yes, sir, I can do that.
And 50 years later, still paying it off. No, I'm just kidding.
And 50 years later, now get this. My insurance company appraised it. They appraised it at $35,000.
How about that?
They said it's really a rare car, and that since I had all the history and stuff, boom. I'm looking for a picture of my apprentice in Kauai, Hawaii.
I know you had that there. While you're looking for that, I'm going to welcome some more folks here to the broadcast. Let's see. Kathy's watching from Cotati, California. Kathy, it's good to have you here again. Oh, there it is right there. Scoot it over. Scoot it over there to your right just a little bit. There you go. There you go. Yep.
This is Matthew Goddard, and he's got his daughter on top of his baby mule, and this baby mule is about 9 months old.
Oh, fun.
And he uses the come along everywhere you go. When he goes hiking, when he takes and puts it on a bicycle and goes out, all that good stuff is fine. But one of what's her name from Gilbert? Christine?
Kimberly. She
asked me about taking it to cowboy church and things like that. And I said, it's all well and good, but folks, remember, this is a prey animal, not a predator animal. So you cannot desensitize it by taking it everywhere. Yes, it's fun to take it in places, but Bash's grocery store doesn't want it there.
And on that note, we've got, let's see here, James watching from Holden, Missouri. James, we're glad that you're here. We've got Don from South Arkansas watching. Haley Williams. Hey, Steve. Haley's watching us today. This next question here, this one's from Dory. Dory here from Virginia. How do you deal with one that bucks after tightening the surcingle? I have put ropes around her and tightened them. She does fine. The cinch is not tight. After she bucks out, I can work with her. So what are we dealing with there, Steve?
Okay, well, what happens is some animals are just naturally very sensitive, but when you're putting a surcingle on, it's putting pressure top and bottom. Where a rope, it's only just one little strand, and it's stressful, but not as much. So here's what you got to understand, folks. That surcingle is not meant to be tight like a saddle cinch. Don't do that. Only thing that surcingle is to have the breeching connect to the back of it, and then the 2 pieces of baling twine connect to the front of it, where the breeching and the baling twine comes together, and then that way it keeps the mule keeps the bit in the right place. So when the mule ruts or puts his head in the wrong place, the baling twine is heavy enough, and that's all the weight that you need now. It's important. It's heavy enough that it'll do the job to teach the head to come down. Because if he's using my mule rider's martingale, then he's using beta, which is good. So let's go back to this. the cinch doesn't have to be tight. Even if that cinch is hanging down 2 to 4 inches, it's okay, because it's the top part that needs to be in place. That's what counts. So, okay, if he bucks, then here's what you're going to do. You're going to have the come along hitch on him, and as soon as he goes to bucking, you're going to start jerking on that come along hitch. Going to start going right at it. I don't know, David, if you have that picture of my clients that was here 4 or 5 years ago with that mule bucking, and I'm in the arena and the legs are way in the air and I'm using the come along hitch.
I think so. Let me look and see if I can find it.
Yeah, anyway, that works, folks. We've got to remember, anytime you're training or have a training problem, the nose tells them, yes, this is correct. No, that's not correct. So if the mule is bucking, number one, you need to get your timing into place, okay? Your timing is very, very important. So as soon as the mule pins his ears, he's wanting to buck. So what you want to do is you want to give it a sharp reprimand while the ears are pinned. It looks like Amber from New Mexico is trying to ask a question.
Oh.
I just had one come across the screen.
Yeah, I mean, we may, well, if you had one come across the screen, that looks like it's from your text.
All right. It might be that. I don't know. That's Amber. I mean, how to ask you. I see how to talk. Oh, how to do a talk on live stream. So we'll have to get with her after this.
Oh, okay.
And
she wants to do what we're doing.
Yes.
All right. There we go.
Yes. So, and remember, we've got some others we want to talk to too about that. So
yeah, that's right.
Yep. Awesome.
Very good. So is that kind of all you'd have to say there about the buck in, bucking out, and the cinch and the surcingle and whatnot?
This is a sensitive mule. And your sensitive mules will tend to buck because they feel their life is in danger and they feel that that's the best way to immediately get rid of what they perceive as a problem. So loose cinch, have the come along hitch on so that as soon as he pins his ears, fix it while they're thinking about it before they do it.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, that timing is so important.
That's why lead rope and using your hands and this sort of thing on lead rope is extremely important.
That's good. Dory, hopefully that helps you out there. If you have any follow-up questions, we'll be here for the next half hour. Luke is watching. Hi, Steve and Dave from Michigan. So Luke Streeter's here again, Steve.
Luke Streeter.
Hanging out with us.
Just talking about Luke there a few minutes ago.
We were.
He was. Luke was wanting a gaited mule. And he said, they're kind of pricey and stuff. And I said, all right. And he said, boy, this mule's been everywhere, done that. And I said, no, Luke, here's the downside, folks. The dog and pony shows are out there. Everybody thinks all laying them down is, wow, it must be a trained mule. Oh, it's a gaited mule, so it must be a really good mule. The majority of gaited mules I've seen, Dave, have had virtually next to no training other than go fast. Now, Luke wants to ride with his mom and dad and other friends, and they've all got gaited animals. So it's a little bit more difficult for his mule to keep up with them. But I'm going to tell you this, Luke, and I'll tell this to everybody else, and this is very, very, very important you understand, that these people who have gaited mules, and I don't want to be real mean about this, but it's kind of the truth, they don't know how to communicate him to slow down, okay? They only know the one speed. Oh, I can't slow him down. Yeah, you can too. I've had gaited mules. I've had foxtrotters. I've had a lot of them. The one in Hawaii is a foxtrotter, and anyway, so going back to this, years ago when I was packing people back in the mountains, I was riding my little mule Stacy, and Lothar Low. He was very German, and he spoke very hard English like this. And so he said, Steve, you must ride my foxtrotters because your little muley will not keep up with my foxtrotters. And I said, Lothar, if my little muley cannot keep up with your foxtrotters, this whole trip is free. No problem. And he says, your little muley will keep up with my foxtrotters. And I says, your problem you're going to have is trying to keep up with my little muley. So the first morning we go out, I'm in full leather. chaps, vest, long sleeve shirt, buttoned up, and I'm going out because I know there's cactus out there. And here's all these Germans out there, and they're saddling up, and they're all primped and proper with all the, everything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we had the second richest man, billionaire in Germany was there, and he had 3 women that met all of his needs. They saddled his animals for him and had the tents. They brought him his dinner and helped him up in the saddle, all kind. Anyway, long story short, we go out the first day, and now these people are starting to get stuck with cactus and everything else. And I'm going along my trail, and there's not much of a trail out there. And I get up high where I can look down and see them because they had to come up my way. And all of a sudden I hear Lothar. He's saying, Steve, where are you? Where are you? And I said, Lothar, up here, come up here, come up here. So he comes up, he says, oh shit, Steve. He says this all the time, That's about the first English word he probably learned was oh shit, He goes, oh shit, Steve, you got to slow that little muley down. You're making my horses look bad, I said, all right, Lothar, I'm telling you, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with me, but I'll slow down to your pace. Ha, ha, ha. Look, folks, when these mules get up in them mountains, they're going to watch what they're doing. They're going to be careful where they put their foot. When they put their foot down, Luke, they know exactly where they put their foot down. Exactly. So when they kicked you, they know exactly where they kicked you. All right, that's another story. But I said all that to say this. At the end of the trip, okay, now all these rich people, the first night, they sit down, and Lothar, I said to him, how about if I drag some wood up to the fire or help somebody pull the saddle off? He says, no, Steve, you are the cowboy. He says, the bar is open, the hors d'oeuvres are here, you are the cowboy. I thought, wow, that's the kind of cowboy job I like, Well, so the end of this thing, we had a really tough trail, Red Tanks Trail back in the Superstition Mountains. I mean, it wasn't much wider than this computer, all right? And Stacy, she's just going along like, it's no big deal. And these people were getting off to walk their horses. And I looked back and I said, no, come on, get on your horse, trust your horse, put your hands down, look at my eyes, watch me, look at me, Yeah. Come on. And they went across, and they got on the other side, and they were just yakking like crazy. I said, Lothar, what's the matter? He says, they said they want to buy all your horses, that if they could take their horse across where the little muley went, they would buy everything. So he was averaging $30,000 a piece for these horses 15 years ago. So, yeah, look, folks, these mules are going to be as good as you are. I was telling Luke Streeter this as well. If you want one to go faster, all right, you pick out a spot. And I tell my see that. So I'm going to look straight ahead. My hands are going to be in ice cream cone position, direct reining. Now, we got a right brain and we got a left brain. Remember, they don't have the cranial lobe that tells the left side what to do, the right side what to do. So you do left, right. So as we're going down, I want my mule to pick up the speed. So my mule is going along. All of a sudden, I pick up on my reins and I hold on to them. So now I have control and I'm just barely feeling the mouth. And then I hit with my legs, right, left, right, left. Well, then the mule is wanting to get away from the pressure of the right, left. So the mule picks up the pace. Well, when he does, and he gets to where I want, I put my hands down and I relax. Well, then when he starts slowing down again, I pick my hands back up. I feel the mouth. I use my legs, right, left, okay? And then what that does then, that then tells the mule that I want you to walk this speed. And that's why Stacy got so good. Lothar got with me on a road, a little 2-tracker road, coming out of the Superstitions, and he went right alongside of me. And my little mule, Stacy, she just went to walking and shuffling, and this foxtrotter, it just barely kept up with her, mainly because, of me being a rider, of getting them to go forward, They're very lateral when they're walking. A mule single foots, folks. That's what makes them so nice to ride,
Very good. So let's take a look here. We got a few more folks. Actually, a lot of folks hopping over. A lot of dialogue over on YouTube. So we've got. So Kimberly asked the question: do mules always get the bray of the donkey, never the whinny of the horse?
Yeah, pretty much the bray, and very
What
few.
What do those mean?
Bray means they kind of call out, like at lunchtime or dinner time. They're going, nah, and the old donkey go, you
do that well, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Some say I'm half-assed. Some say I'm half-fast. But anyway, that's another story. So here's the deal, folks. You're going to hear them bray a little bit. It's more like, more what you're going to hear. Sometimes they can be vocal, and that comes from the daddy, the donkey, the brains of the outfit.
There you go. Let's see here. Paul's watching, says, hey, Steve and Dave, cooling off here in Kentucky. Like to hear that. Cooling off here in Arizona. So cooling off everywhere. Susan Henderson says, went to look at a 25-year-old mule horse trainer owner. Horse trainer owner told me she was beginner safe. Mule was wearing a nylon halter, and she drugged me all over the yard. Needed my come along. Didn't buy her. Thanks.
The come along, what was that now?
Okay, so she said the mule they were using a nylon halter. The mule needed the come along rope. She didn't wind up buying her. Yeah,
well, look, folks, if you can't lead them on the ground, even with a nylon halter, don't bother trying to get in the saddle. You're just going to end up in ER, and that's not the place you want to spend your days. You don't. So you're exactly right, folks. If you can't get it on the ground, don't get in the saddle. And look, 25 years old is their downside on the other side. They can still go good in this sort of thing. But at 25 years old, if they've got a bad enough habit that you can't lead them even with a nylon halter, you should be able to lead them, folks, with a piece of baling twine around their neck. That should be it. At 25 years old, there should be no ifs, ands, or buts or anything else. Yep. Anytime they don't have, the other thing I told Luke Streeter, he says, Steve, everywhere I look on the internet, says I've got people wanting to sell mules, but all they have is a front cinch, no rear cinch, no breeching, no breast collar. What do you think? And I say no. Look, if they don't have enough knowledge to dress the mule correctly so that they will be comfortable, folks, don't buy that mule. Stay away from that donkey. You don't need it. 2 cinches is the minimum. I don't care if they tell you it's flat ground, I don't need it. They don't know nothing about mules. Why buy their problems? Because you can bet if they don't understand how to put a breeching and a breast collar on them and a rear cinch, then they have created other problems within that mule. And I've seen it time and time again, and I know I'm going to have people upset at me and go, nah. It's the truth, okay? I go to these clinics and I have people say they don't need it. And then I show them, yes, you do need it. Put your hand underneath here, turn the head, get your hand smashed, Or in a few minutes later, after the mule has gone around, where's the saddle setting? On top of the scapula. Well, it's no big deal. That's what I do with my horse. Well, your horse shouldn't have you either. I think a little bit more of my mules and donkeys than that, Dave.
One of the things that I really appreciate about our community here is that whenever someone comes with a comment like that, hey, I've heard that it's okay to ride with 1 cinch, or I've heard it's okay to ride with a crooper, the community really is receptive to not just saying, hey, let me give you something else to think about, but also receptive to hear it, but receptive to try it. And we hear time and time again when someone makes a change from what they have been told or what they have been doing, the problems that they've been experiencing, they go away. There's always exceptions to it. There's always times where it says, okay, we took care of that, now let's address the next thing. But we've got a really good community here that ultimately understands what we're trying to do is we're trying to help, and we're trying to make sure that you've got an animal that is that lifelong pal, that lifelong buddy, that'll go anywhere with you, do anything for you, and make you look good the whole time too,
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Richter, I think you got an email from her too. Yeah. She was kind of wanting to know about where her breast collar is. But anyway, she says, she said to me, she said, I watch everybody else on the internet right without a breeching and breast collar, and I'm doing fine. So I'll do fine. So I just sent her what she wanted. Within a couple days, she called me up and says, I'm tired of the saddle going forward. I see what you're saying now. You know, I've got to keep a breeching on. Yes, you do. And you got to keep a breast collar on it so it keeps things in place. When those cinches loosen up, that saddle is going to move, folks. And on a mule, it is going to go forward.
Yeah. Did you see the photo that I sent your way? I sent you a text message. Check your phone there. Tell me if that's the photo that you were talking about.
Let's see here, Dave. I'll see. Is this the photo? Yes. Yeah, that should make people think a little bit there. Can we kind of see that there?
So what's going on in that picture?
All right, this is a mule that was bad to buck. Okay, and so I went ahead and I put the come along hitch on, and when this mule would buck, I would flat set down on that breeching. Normally, folks, on that breast collar. Normally, I tell everybody, take and just bump. But when one's throwing 1,000 pounds at you, do the hip locks like you see me in there. You see that hip lock? You see how I've got that thing locked down around my hip? Get that hip lock in there and lock that mule in. And you can see this mule is bucking and kicking. Every time he bucked, his nose paid the price. And by the time we was into this session, in 2 days, that mule wouldn't buck at all.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I suggested to do, always, folks, when your mule or your donkey is wanting to buck, that's telling you they're uncomfortable. They took the mule to a chiropractor like I told them to do, and yes, my come-along hitch was hitting their brain, but when they fixed the mule's shoulder and his back, that was the end of it. So it was a combination of the come-along hitch on the nose, and then getting the veterinarian in there. And always, folks, get your teeth done and get your chiropractic done. Get that done, you know.
Yep. All right, then. Let's see here. We got some more folks here over on the YouTube and Facebook. We've got Richard says, afternoon, gentlemen. Palestine, Texas, OU2 Dave, LOL. All right, and then we've got Renell's Suburban Homestead Prepping for Survival. I have been using some of your techniques on our goats, and it helps. Phoenix, Arizona here. All right. We've got Jarrett, the paraffin wax you use on the ropes. Is it a solid form?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it is. And that's when you're going to rub it in there, and that'll make a big difference.
Kimberly commenting on when we were talking about baby donkey or baby mule coming earlier. Baby Wyatt will be here on November 16th.
Yeah, well, good for her. Yeah, that's great. It's coming. I think it's from Wyoming. It seems like they're going to meet them halfway. They're going to go up 6 hours, and the other people are going to come down 6 hours and meet them halfway. So that'll be great.
Journey 13 says Purina makes a feed called Impact Hay Stretcher. That's the only feed that I can find that is close to what you use.
Well, and that'll be a good deal. But again, folks, when you start feeding stuff like this, don't just give them the amounts that it says quote on the box. Feed these mules a little at a time, work your way up to it. But I want you to watch their attitude, because when they start getting too many carbohydrates, they are going to be looking for monsters, and they're going to be wanting to flight and fright, run from the monster.
Yep. Let's see here. Renell says we're working, so they were talking about the goats, using the techniques on the goats. We're working with one. His name is El Guapo.
El Guapo.
Christine Tracy, I have a Yearling Jack. He is my first donkey. I have had horses for years and understand this is going to be a different training experience. He's nipping. Any training tips? I need help.
Yes, sir. I got the first training tip. It's called brain surgery. Get him castrated right away. Folks, as soon as the testicles are down on your donkeys and your mules, go to the vet, get that done, get the wolf teeth pulled at the same time. Get it done. I told Kimberly how I did it, and she goes, "Oh, that's so cruel." And I said, "No, think about this. The vet does it with drugs, so he's night-night. I use a natural drug. I put the twitch on their nose, and I create the natural endorphins. I can stick my pocket knife up in there and cut out that wolf tooth. The wolf tooth, and castrating them. I use the same knife and get the job done. You know, it's not that difficult of a job, but get it done. So if they're biting and nipping, number one, they're babies, all right, and they're kind of wanting to play. You are the herd leader. When they go to bite or nip at you, kick them in the shin. Use the edge of your boot. You've seen me do it before. I've got some articles on it. Kick them with the side of your boot. Don't slap them with your head, with your hand. Kick them with the boot, and that'll make a big difference. You know, wear a good hard-soled boot and whack them pretty good. Or you can hold a twitch down next. I mean, not twitch, but a good whip, a quirk, and tap them on the legs. But try not to whack them in the head.
Let's see here. We've got a few more comments over on Facebook. We've got Jack from Johannesburg, Michigan, checking in. Good to have you here, Jack. We've got Sherry says, "Hi, Steve. Just had a quick question for you. Just got back from hunting season. My mule found out what a big river looked like. She decided she did not like it. I don't know if it's the sound of the rocks, but right away she started to panic, and she is new at hunting. She will cross streams and smaller river crossings. We did go down the bridge. She will cross that. The river we were trying to cross is in between Yellowstone and Cody. We're going to take her back to Pony Heracross. I was wondering, is there any good way to teach her how to cross?"
Now, don't pony them across, folks. Don't hook them or follow another animal and say, okay, now I get it across. It's not important you cross the problem, i.e. here, the water. All right? So when it's done, they're doing it for the other animal. They're not doing it for you. One day you're not going to have an animal around, and how are you going to get across the water? Don't do that. You teach the animal to go forward, all right, and get across it. Now, some of the reasons why they don't want to cross the water. Yes, the speed of the water. But most of all, it's their ability to be able to decide how deep things are. And they can't tell how deep things are, so they rather would not go across it. Now, I'll tell you how simple this is. You take a piece of plywood, you paint it white, and you put a black circle in the middle. They don't know how deep that black circle is, even though it's only paint thickness. And so they decide they don't want to go across it, okay? And so, you know, can you do your leading them, you yourself, on the ground with the come-along rope? Yes. Do I want to do that in the river? No. But I don't use another equine and say, follow me, here we go. Don't do it for the equine. They're not doing it because of you. Now, folks, this is something we run into all the time. You think you have to do a specific thing. It's not important unless you yourself says we are going to do it. If another animal does it, that mule is only doing it for the leader. He's not doing it for you because you're no longer the leader. You make sure that when you get something done with a lead rope, with a come-along rope, or even in a saddle, you make sure you do it. Now, let's go back to this. Do your homework at home. Now, you got a piece of tarp down. You got a 4x8 sheet of tarp down. You go up to the tarp and don't go up to it with both eyes, saying, okay, now you're going to cross. Don't do that. Remember, they don't have the cranial lobe to tell us what the left side's going to do, right side's going to do. So you're going to come up to the problem. You're going to feel them suck back and kind of hesitate. So you're going to immediately, facing the problem, i.e. the tarp, turn to the left. And then you're going to go a few steps, and you're going to turn to the right. Notice I'm saying turn into the problem every time you go left or right. This way they can see it. Now, the right brain sees it. Now the left brain sees it. Now the right brain sees it. And every time you're turning into what they perceive as a problem. Now, when you do this and you make your turn, my outside leg, I'm looking for my left eye, my outside leg is going to make them uncomfortable. So they're going to think it's an uncomfortable place to be here. It's going to be more comfortable to cross the tarp. All right? This is you in the saddle. Go to the right, use your left leg. Go to the left, use your right leg. Now, we are on the ground. and we're using the come-along rope, not a halter, come-along rope. We go by it, and we turn into it. We go right, left, right, left. And it's also okay to go in a circle. But look at this. You may be 10 foot from that tarp, and they don't want to go to it. Okay, start right there. So they hut back at 10 foot. Now go left, now go right. Pretty soon, folks will go right across that tarp, or they'll go right through that river. But you must be the herd leader. You must be commanding the communication. Don't have another animal. Don't have one animal go and it follow you. They're only doing it for that animal, not for you.
I put a link in the comments section on YouTube and Facebook. There's a series of videos called Establishing Leadership. You'll want to watch that video series. About halfway into those videos, and then towards the end, you see Steve does some of this training here using a wood pallet. And so the handler is in there and really struggling. And by the end of the time, he does a real good job of leading that mule over the scary object, over whatever it is he was frightened about. So it's a really good video. It's all free. It's over on YouTube. I would go check that out. Let's see here.
Free. You give us stuff to pay. How am I going to make a living?
Free. You know what? They will. They'll come to you when they realize they need the tack. We'll deliver the training. They'll come to you when they realize.
Just kidding. I want to. Like I told Melissa today from Virginia. I said, she says, you got a lot of free stuff out there. Thank you so much. I said, look, Melissa, I want to help. I'm 70 years old. I may be here an hour later. I may be here 10 years later. But I want folks to say they've got a handle on the mules because they learned about the come-along rope or the martingale or some technique that I did. I want to keep passing it on, Dave. It's important to me.
Yep, that's great. Edie's watching from Iowa. Edie, it's good to have you here. Karen from Raymond, California. I'm late joining today. We were out and about getting a trailer load of firewood. That time of year, that sounds like fun. Yolanda's here.
Hey,
International. Yolanda says leather halters work best. Let's see. David Pingelli. Ask, tell, demand, coffee man. My come-along worked great loading my mule today. Now, are you talking about the come-along rope or the come-along coffee? That's what we need to know, David. Folks, David brews Steve's signature brand of coffee. It is come-along coffee. Comes in three roasts. Ask, tell, and demand. I'll put a link to it in the comment section. Y'all can go get yourself a pound. Let's see. Jana Griffin watching from Windy, Wyoming. So good to have you here, Jana. Yolanda says, teeth done once a year, but chiropractor. None here because they have no experience with mules or donkeys, so no go. But deworming is vital too because mules are very sensitive when it comes to worms. So some comments there. Let's see. Linda Vinning says, I'm very late, but the farrier was here this afternoon. Hello from Theo, the red mule, and Linda, the mule servant from rural central Ohio. It's good to have you guys here. Glad that you're here. Mark Miller's over on YouTube says, Pennington Gap, Virginia, I thank you both for everything and your service as a firefighter, Mr. Steve. Folks don't know that, Steve. Folks don't know that you are a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
We had some unique training last night, Dave. What we have to do is every quarter they do testing to see how we are mentally and physically, and so our battalion commander put together one heck of a run, and you can see my mask here in this picture next to my helmet. And that mask, notice how they got a sheet of, it's kind of like wax paper over it, and you can't see out of it. So what they do is, you can see my helmet there. Of course, the helmet goes on top of the mask. What they do is we put our SCBAs on, our oxygen, and then we go down on the ground and we follow the hose. And the idea is we are the rescue team, 3-man team, which is called RIT. And we go in following the hose so we can find our firefighter who is lost and down. Now we have on our SCBAs, we have an alarm so that when we're getting down low where we're about out of oxygen, our alarm goes off. And if a firefighter is down where he's hit his head or whatever it may be, then that tells us, since he's down, we got to go find him. So they send in RIT, and that's us, and we're down on the ground crawling. And Dave, it is so black, you can't see your hand in front of you anyway, on top of the mask, you know. And here I am, 70 years old, crawling around with those other younger guys, all volunteers now. We got 3 full-time firefighters, and the rest of us are volunteers. But we are, you know, these guys are so impressive. And the gals, too, that's with us, too. But it's mostly all guys. They're taking their time out of their lives to go and learn to do things to help other people. Dave, that is impressive.
That's legit.
It's a wonderful thing.
Well, I've got another question. We can help Adam. We can do that.
Sure.
Adam says, just got my first mule this past weekend, and she's very nervous and jumpy. She wasn't like that with the previous owner's place. Anything I can do to make her calm and less scared?
How does he know they wasn't like that before the previous owner?
Okay.
All right. Did he actually visually see it, or did the owner say, never did that before, which I've heard 10,222 million times? There are some animals, Dave, that are naturally nervous. Now, how long has he had the mule, and what's his feeding program like? I need those 2 things. And then the people he got it from, have they had the mule for a long time? There
we go. So I'll send him a link. Adam, go ahead. We want to hear back from you. So send us a message back letting us know answer to those questions, and we will go from there. Let's see here. I think that's all of our questions for this week. We just had a couple new comments come in here. Lori says, new hat, Steve? Wish we were seeing you at the equine affair in West Springfield in a couple of weeks. And hey, thank you for your fire service out there. Very important. What you got right there?
This is lights on the building where we were following the hoses.
Yeah.
And you see, do you see the hoses? How there's a lot of them. There was supposed to have been a firefighters were in there before us.
Yeah.
So there are several hoses, and we have to follow one hose in particular in order to be able to find the firefighter that's down. And it's amazing to know what our first responders go through.
Right.
My son is a captain firefighter in Mesa, Arizona. He's also special ops paramedic. Been special ops paramedic of the year 3 years in a row. And I've always kind of learned about what he did, but never firsthand. I mean, who would ever thought a 70-year-old guy would be training, you know? And I've been doing it for close to 3 years now, and I've been on car accidents, I've been on fires, I've been on shootings, I've been on all kinds of stuff, Dave. And we do a lot of helicopter work too. I'm going to tell you probably 25% of our patients that we fly out here. Remember, we're a long ways out. It gets flown out instead of having the ambulances come, sort of thing. We have to do it ourselves. But yeah, thank you very much, folks, for telling me that you thankful for my time, folks. I believe we were put on earth here to give to other people, not the me. It's serving other people.
Yep.
And that's the way my life is in Christ. I know my brother David here in the Lord we look for that servitude. So whatever way I can serve and serve my risen Savior, that's what I want to do.
Yep, that's true. That's right on. I mean, no life better to model than Jesus, who laid his life down for everyone. Everyone didn't have to. Chose to do it anyways. We got a comment here from John. John LaSalle, New Iberia, Louisiana, home of Tabasco. We're glad you're here, John, and we're glad Tabasco was introduced into the world. Thank you to all of your countrymen there. Yeah, send us Tabasco. James Perkins, this will be our last question for the day. Okay. James says, I have an 18-year-old mule, Morgan. Mule, every time I put the bit and bridle in his mouth, he gets his tongue over the bit. Or are you trying to push the bit with his tongue? What can I do to keep him from doing this?
Okay, number one, we've got to remember that the palate of the mule is the donkey. So therefore, if we are using a horse bridle, we are not going to make him comfortable. And he's basically saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable. All right, so that's the first part. Second part is, folks, your brow band coming across the front has to be an average of 19 inches. Big, small mule makes no difference, an average of 19 inches, because if you don't have the ears, if you don't have the ears comfortable, then the rest of the animal is going to be uncomfortable. Okay, the next part. Anytime you have a mule getting his tongue over top of the bit, he's trying to tell you he's uncomfortable some way. So what do people do? They tighten it up even more. Don't do that. Don't create one wrinkle or two wrinkles. Start with a snaffle bit because it's lighter. Put it on and let it hang down about 2 to 3 notches where it hangs down, bumping the front teeth. Now, on a John mule, you're going to have a canine. On a Molly mules, you're going to have incisors. So let it hang down, bumping the incisors or bumping the canine, and let it hang down bumping. Now, what they'll do is they'll reach down, pick it up, and pack it. They will show you where they like it. If you're riding a finished bit, it's a little heavier, a little harder to do, so let them train themselves to be able to pick up the bit using a snaffle. Never ever, folks, never put on a pre-adjusted bridle. Always drop it down a couple notches, let the bridle come off nice and easy with the head down, tip to the left. With the head down, they're being servitude to you. To the left, they got the left eye. So, and then when you put the bridle on the same way, and then they sit there and they pick it up and they hold it where they like it, adjust it to that spot. Now, for 6 months, you do not adjust the snaffle bit. Don't do it. Let them keep picking it up and putting it down and showing you where they like it the best. And then the same thing with the finished bit. Now, the finished bit, you're not going to put it down as far because it's heavier. It's a little harder to pick up. So put it down about halfway between the two, but watch the mule pick it up and pack it, put it where he likes it, then adjust it to that spot. But now do this over a 6-month time frame, 4 to 6 hours a week. Don't just try to do it over a weekend or just a few days. 6 months builds a foundation where they'll be consistent, especially if they've been doing it a long time. Now, of course, before the bridle, let's go on back before the bridle, and this is the last thing I want to be quiet. Always, always, always get the dental work done. Get the teeth done. If the teeth are comfortable, Mr. Mule is going to be comfortable.
There we go. All right, so Karen worked this one in here right at the last second. I think this is a quick question. Says, may I ask one more question? Is it okay for the mule I'm halter training to stop when she needs to go poop, or should I reprimand her? Thanks so much for your help.
No, are we talking about a baby or older one? Either one of them, it don't make any difference. If they want to stop and drop some road apples on the ground, fine. They want to stop and take a leak, fine. Let them do that. That's no big deal. Used to be years ago, we made them keep on going. They had to poop as they went. And I let them have a little bit of comfort for a short time. There's nothing wrong with that.
There we go. All right, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Steve, thanks for spending a few hours here or a few minutes here with us. Buffalo Hat 5, June 10th, bear, custom made for Steve Edwards, Queen Valley Mule Ranch. Got some comments on that hat right there. That is the rest of the story.
Yes, sir. So I like my hats, and I've got one from Australia, some friends by the name of David and Di. And I talked to David last night on the phone. We're setting up our trip, and we're going to go to Australia and judge a mule and donkey show. We're going to have some video coming from there as well. We'll even try to do some live screens like this, and I'm going to go spend probably 2 to 3 weeks there in Australia. I've got several friends that I want to see there in Australia, and we're going to do some training.
That'll be great. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out. Be sure to go to muleranch.com. You can find a lot of free training materials there, free videos. You can also find instructional videos, both ones you can download and ones you can get DVDs for. Of course, Steve's saddles and tack and everything is there as well. But if you have anything that you need help with, send Steve a text message. His phone is on the website. His phone number, 602-999-6853. You can send him a text message, ask any question that you want, and he'll get back to you. And feel free to call too. If you have any questions about anything you see on the store, you can send me a message at support@muleranch.com. We'll get you taken care of. Steve, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you next week.
You betcha. Now, folks, this is a buckaroo hat. That's a buckaroo hat, so don't think it's an Amish hat. It's a buckaroo from the buckaroos in Nevada and this sort of thing. So I have a variety of hats, so we'll see you next week, huh, David?
See you next week, and you'll have a different hat on.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll have your hat on.
I'll bring my hat too.
There you go.
We'll see y'all.
Pictures of the boys with their hats.
That's right. See y'all. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.